So a big hello to our Highlights Foundation family. We're so happy to have you here with us. For those that may not know, I'm Kat Galliano. My pronouns are she, her, the social media manager for the Highlights Foundation, aka the person always resharing your post and responding to you with blue and green hearts. That is me. I'm joining you from Westchester, New York on the traditional lands of the Siwanoy people. Apart from all the fun things I get to do at the Highlights Foundation, one of my greatest joys is celebrating the book birthdays of our community members and friends, because all of your wins is our wins. And tonight, I have the honor of celebrating M.O. Yuxel and Hatem Ali's newest book baby, titled Ramadan Kareem, that is out today. They previously collaborated on In My Mosque, which if you haven't been to campus recently, it is our current installation on our art wall. It features art and story from In My Mosque, a picture book authored by M.O. Yuxel and illustrated by Hatem Ali. And we're going to drop a link in the chat so that you can take a peek. And I must confess, all the time I do spend at Highlights, I do stare lovingly at the wall pretty often during appetizers. So big fan, big fan. But I also have to say that this new story is equally as gorgeous, words and art alike. And before we dive in, I just want to remind our viewers that our viewers joining in on any Highlights Foundation sessions to do so with no hate, no harm, and no harassment of any kind. And now let's get started. Congratulations to both of you. The story is visually stunning, a celebratory story, and I feel so grateful that I got to read it in advance, and I read it multiple times because it was just so beautiful, words and art. So how are you feeling today? Releasing a book into the world must be, I can't tell you what that feels like because I haven't been at that point in my journey, but tell me how you're feeling today.
Well, I'm feeling much better now that you're here, Kat, because your joyfulness, your enthusiasm is contagious.
Oh,
And so thank you for bringing that, that spirit, that energy. And thank you for hosting us because Highlights is a special place for me, especially because I started my journey at Highlights. And I know Hatem is also very fond of it. And yeah, so we're grateful to find community here.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Thank you for celebrating it with us.
yay. Oh man, this is so exciting for me. So just if I'm cheesing extra hard, just so I'm doing my job, but also I'm a big fan. So like it's a double duty today. So that's very exciting for me. So can you talk a little bit how this story came to be? And Hatem, how did you get involved?
Okay.
Hatem, do you want to
You
start
start
or
with
should I start?
how it came to be, and then I'm gonna say
Yeah.
how I got involved.
It, it would be funny if you started, well, the
Yeah,
illustrations I started,
yeah, exactly.
and then Mindy wrote the words later, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe that will be the
yeah.
third book, baby.
Yeah, yes. Please, please,
I
Hatem,
came
you
up with
start.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, you start the illustrations first, and then I think there's a game where it's called Corpse or something, where you draw or you write something and then you fold it and you pass it to the next person,
Oh
and
yes,
then they
yes.
try to guess and they draw or
It's,
write something and pass it to the next person. It's sort of like
I know the game, but it's called
I
Corpse.
I was at an
Yeah.
event recently. They called it Corpse. I don't know why,
Okay.
but when I heard it, I wasn't interested in playing because it sounded morbid. But then later on, I heard it was fun. So anyway, to get to your question, Kat, sorry, we went on a tangent. Uh, so the story came about when I was taking a class, and I love taking classes, especially at Highlights. And this particular one wasn't a Highlights class, but it was an online class, and I was playing around with point of view. And I wrote the story. I said, well, what if I wrote it from the point of view of a meal? And in Ramadan, the fast-breaking meal is called iftar. And I said, what if I wrote it from the point of view of iftar? And at first it was silly, but we have to challenge ourselves to be silly and be playful and experiment and find the joy in writing and I'm sure illustration too. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to give myself permission to be silly and play. And so I wrote it from that point of view, and it was just a writing exercise. It wasn't anything like, okay, this has to be a published,
Hmm.
book, like
Hmm.
that wasn't the mindset. It was just like, okay, I'm just gonna go with it and see what happens. And so I worked on it, and then I said, oh, this is pretty good. It's pretty interesting. And I sent it to my agent, and she was like, okay, that's an interesting take, but how do you illustrate something like this? Because it's unusual. And then I said, well, I'm not an illustrator, but let me ask Hatem Ali and see see what he thinks. And Hatem, I don't know if you remember what you said, but
Yes,
do you?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I was excited that you have a book about Ramadan in the making, and then you told me like it's gonna be in the point of view of iftar, and I was like, oh well, that's interesting, but I don't know how am I gonna. I have no clue how am I gonna illustrate that.
Yeah.
But I remember also, I think I remember saying like if that's gonna be the challenge to like if it's gonna make it something unique, okay, well maybe I'll try to figure out something, let me play with it or something like that.
Yeah.
But it got difficult by by the time, and I think you developed it in a different way after, and then we worked from there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. But you
yeah,
said you were interested.
I said I was still interested.
So then
Yes, I
I
took the
ran with it. I said,
challenge. I was gonna make it like the first premise. Yeah.
yeah, so I ran with that. I said, Hatem Ali's interested. Okay, let's go. And
Yeah.
and then we sent it to my editor at HarperCollins, and she said similarly, she said, it's interesting, but I
Yeah.
don't know how it would be illustrated from the point of view of a meal, of food. And but she was happy that Hatem was interested in illustrating, and she said, why don't you see if you can write it a different way and write it more lyrical. And so I took those two pieces of advice and then decided to change the whole thing and
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and revised it, but I kept some parts of it from the first point of view from that meal, such as the onomatopoeia and
Hmm.
the repetitions.
Yeah.
The playful aspect of it, I worked into the revised version that you see today or you've read.
I love that you say that because that playfulness really comes out. Like it really, like I was just smiling like ear to ear through the whole thing. And I just positively adored that you moved from like different families and different cultures and different, because and then and I also, I won't spoil it, but there's, little like Easter eggs hidden around the story
Uh-huh.
that I really love too. And I didn't even catch it at first. I caught it on my second read. And I speak fluent Spanish, so when they were on the Spanish part, I was like, "Oh my God, what? How did I miss this?" And then I started the book over again. I was like, "Oh my God!" So that playfulness really came out, like even with the words, with just the story as a whole, the art. Like I totally, totally saw that vision. So A plus to both of you because I was just like super, super
Yeah,
smiley.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you
um,
for that.
Thank you very much.
So our next question is, now that you have worked together for two stories, what has that experience been like?
It's exhausting. I'll never do this again.
You heard it here. You've heard it here first, people.
No, no, really, no. It's actually an honor. Like Mindy's work is really like she writes in such passion, and her style is her voice is very distinct too. And I'm happy I did with her two books that are like about like two of the most important things in Muslim lives, which is like mosques and the month of Ramadan. And um, I'm yeah, I'm really honored about this. I think it's gonna be, hopefully, it's gonna be like a classic for both of them are gonna be classics for this subject. Yeah,
Yeah, inshallah, God willing.
inshallah.
Uh, yeah. But thank you for that, Hatan. That means a lot. And the same here. It's been a really privilege and an honor to have this opportunity to to work on these books, especially with Hatan. And he has a distinct style, and it's God willing, it's gonna be a timeless in terms of uh, hopefully it will be timeless. But yeah, so it's working on two books. It's been a nice collaboration. Usually in traditional publishing, author and illustrator don't get to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
But in our case, we were able to communicate,
Yeah.
partly because we were a part of the Muslim Storyteller Fellowship at the Highlights Foundation. We met each other in person there. And actually, when we were at the workshop, or was it the workshop? It was a symposium or one of the workshops. We actually worked on Ramadan Kareem at the Highlights Foundation.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool to
Yeah.
know. Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. So he had his sketches, and so we sat down and we just reviewed, well, what do you think about this, and how should this be, and what can we do about that? And so it's been a nice collaboration.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice. I think we work well together. Like we kind of discuss things in depth, and sometimes we change our opinions about stuff, and then form something new, which is good. That's great. Yeah, it was great.
so collaborative. I love it. And I just want to echo what you were saying. I definitely think it'll be a timeless classic because as a non-Muslim, I have absolutely loved learning and reading and rereading. And yeah, I just think it's such special work that you have. So I definitely echo and think it'll be timeless stories for all people alike because it is
Thank
just
you.
so special. So we're going to jump into our next question, which is a two-parter, one part for Mindy and one part for Hatem. Mindy, can you talk about your writing journey and how the Highlights Foundation has played a part in that? And then for Hatem, it's gonna go in the direction of what have you taken away from your time as a mentor with the Muslim Storytellers Fellowship with us.
So should I go first?
I think so. You have more history than me with the Highlights Foundation.
Yeah, and I like to talk a lot, so I'll go first. So yeah, I started my journey in 2017 at the Highlights Foundation, and it's been an integral part of my publishing journey. And like prior to attending the Highlights workshop, I didn't know much about. I remember attending the national conference in New York City, the SCBWI conference, and there were acronyms flying around like PB, NGYA,
Mm-hmm.
NF, like all of these acronyms that we know now,
Mm-hmm.
shop talk. But as a newbie, I was like, what are they talking about? I didn't understand anything. And so from there, I met Allison, who's part of Highlights, the program director, and she said, "Have you heard of the Highlights Foundation?" And I was like, "No." And she said, "Well, here's a pamphlet." And once I got home, I looked it up, and yeah, I applied to one of the workshops, and I actually I'm an overachiever, and I was like, Well, since I'm going to be up there anyway, I'm driving a whole 2 hours to get to the Highlights Foundation. It's so far from me. I said I might as well sign up for two workshops because there were two workshops back to back that I was interested in. One was the nonfiction picture book workshop, and Don Tate was teaching at the time, in addition to several other faculty members. And then the other workshop was the picture book boot camp with Pam, uh, not Pam,
Leslie and Darcy?
no,
No. Oh,
Pat
Pat
Cummings.
Cummings,
That
yes.
coming.
And
Yes.
she doesn't do that there anymore, but I think that was her last one, the picture book boot camp. And that one you had to apply to get in, like you had to submit a manuscript, and then if you pass the test sort of thing, then you were admitted. And I was like, I'll just do two. And so I went up there, and then I met people coming from across the country. They've traveled 18 hours to get to. I was like, I said, oh my God, I better not complain about driving 2 hours. So I was like, but anyway, long story short, I've taken many, many, many workshops, and I've learned so much at the Highlights Foundation, not only about writing, the craft of writing and the publishing industry, but I've made lifelong friends where we're, still critique partners, and we're still cheering and supporting each other. And I also appreciate the Highlights Foundation because they walk the talk, like they support diversity, and they're one of the first organizations in the publishing industry that initiated the Muslim Storyteller Fellowship, which is like an integral and such an important program. And so I'm truly appreciative of their support and their amplifying of diverse and marginalized voices. All right, I'll stop talking now.
I'm not gonna take long because my story is not as spectacular as Mindy's.
I'm sure it's
Um,
equally as spectacular.
yeah, it started with Muslim Storytellers Fellowship. There was this going on, and people were applying and were saying, like, we should apply. So I was actually applying as a mentee. Like, I wanted to get a mentor from there, and I was looking for peers and like mutual inspiration and guidance in some way because I live in a small place too, so I don't have anything around me, so it would be like a good opportunity to meet people too and learn and share interests and all that. And I ended up being a mentor there in the program and did all that, like all the mutual inspiration and all the learning from people and hopefully giving some people some advice and some good ways to look at what they wanted to learn. And yeah, you, it was uplifting and empowering too because you learn that a lot of people there are very talented out there and they're willing they're eager actually to support one another and help each other. And everyone builds on the other's ideas, and it's a very beautiful thing to be in. And yeah, like Mindy, I made like lifelong friends from there. And actually, there was some of them that have been like very helpful with the Ramadan book too, because some of them come from different backgrounds. So I would ask like, how is it in like Ramadan, how is it? Because Ramadan is celebrated in different ways, and like it's kind of not one way. So it was great to get guidance too from there. It was really empowering for me.
That's amazing. And there's something to be said about community, right?
Yeah.
Community within people that, are like-minded like you or write stories in the same kind of children's
Exactly.
publishing
Yeah.
aspect as you, or, you know, there's just something so powerful about community. And not to like toot highlights horn too hard, but I feel like when I was a scholarship recipient myself, I walked into a space leaving grad school not knowing anything, and all of a sudden I found, like both of you mentioned, lifelong connections. And I always like to tell people that I came in as a scholarship recipient and never left. Because I
Yeah.
literally I was hired shortly after my experience as a scholarship recipient. So yeah, I really, really resonate with that sense of community that you both have shared, and learning and craft, and, you know, being with people and bouncing off ideas, and it's some powerful stuff. So thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. And for our last question, what do you want people, but most importantly, kids, to take away from your book?
So I guess the most important thing is the the idea that we have more in common, that we have more similarities than we have differences, and that we all celebrate holidays,
Mhm.
and we love food, we love eating, we love being playful and joking around. We love gifts and joy and celebrations, but more important underneath that layer is the understanding that Muslims are not what is being presented as, like currently in our world. They're being dehumanized and misrepresented, and this has been happening for many years, especially now. What's going on in Gaza, and we're all heartbroken, and we're all grieving, and even having a book release and celebrating a book
Yeah.
feels difficult right now. This is probably the hardest time to have such a book release or a celebration. But hopefully, books like this will change that narrative of dehumanization and spread more understanding, and that we, as we travel through the pages of the book, we see
Mhm.
the diversity of Muslims. We see how the holiday is celebrated, and we see that this dehumanization is incorrect, and is just very painful, just witnessing and experiencing what's going on right now. And hopefully, books like this will change
Yeah.
the narrative.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, I feel like that is the power of books. That ultimately, that really is what books can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty tough right now to celebrate, but yeah.
Well, to end on a not a super solemn note, but on a happier note, I
Yeah.
want to congratulate both of you on this gorgeous, gorgeous collaboration. And for those that may want to order a copy of this book, or any of Mindy and Hatem's books, you can order them at our virtual bookshop powered by bookshop.org, or you can get a signed copy at Source Booksellers. We're going to drop in the link in the chat. We're also going to create a blog post with this, with the transcript, with all the links that we mentioned, just so everything's sort of nicely packaged, so people don't have to like scroll through comments and whatnot. But yes, thank you so much to Mindy. Thank you to Hatem. I know the world is super difficult right now, but I can't thank you enough for stepping out into the light and celebrating this beautiful story that can live in the hands of everyone now, because I am absolutely overwhelmed with how beautiful it is. And I can't wait for everyone else to go grab their own copy. So please do yourself a favor and go run and get it. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And that's it from me. So thank you both.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Kat, for hosting us and for Hatem for being here. And just wanted to share that I'm doing a giveaway on Twitter or X, as it's called now. So if you want a signed copy, please head over to Twitter to my account, Mo Yuxan. I forget the handle. But if you type in Mo Yuxan, you'll find it.
We'll put all that information in the blog post too. But when is the last date to enter the contest?
So it's going to be ongoing until Monday, the
Okay,
26th.
perfect.
Yeah.
Our blog post should be ready by tomorrow, so that's perfect. We'll make sure to have your details in there. And thank you, Hatem. Any last words from you?
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for having us, and thanks for Mindy for coming. You've been wonderful, Kat.
Thank
It's
you.
been it's been very powerful. Yeah, you like Mindy said, you kept the spirit high, and you kept us all. You've made everything pretty there, so it's great. Yeah, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Kat,
Yes.
I'm sorry. Before we leave, I'm very, like other writers and illustrators, we're very bad at promoting our work.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so
it's
I
true.
have another book coming up in April,
Okay.
and it's about Eid al-Adha. And within our religion, within Islam, we have two major holidays. One is celebrated after Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, and the second one is Eid al-Adha, which is like approximately 2 months after Ramadan. And so just wanted to share, I have a book coming in April. It's called Sammy's Special Gift. And I hope we can celebrate with you again then. But Hatem, I know you have a book coming out, right? Do you want
Uh,
to share?
book coming. I have a book called The Book That Almost Rhymed. It's a picture book. It's written by Omar Abed. He's an American Palestinian author, and the book is a lot of fun. Like the title says, look, it's almost rhymed. There is the main character wanting to do a book that rhymes, but his sister keeps getting in the way, and then it makes it more interesting. So that's going to be out in March 26th.
So what I'm hearing is you're absolutely invited to hang out with me on IG Live again, and we can celebrate all these stories
Yeah.
for the next couple months. So
Whoa,
just let me
wonderful.
know, and we'll pencil it in because I like the idea of hanging out with you two separately, together, whatever. Again, anytime this year. So
Wonderful.
definitely.
Okay, great.
Well, congratulations on this story, on your previous story, on the new stories coming out, and the ones I'm sure you're working on now, or the ones you haven't thought up yet. So anyway, you're both a huge gift to the Kidlit community. Thank you for spending time with
Oh,
us.
thank you so
And
much.
Thank you
and
very much.
thank you